years of Film Riot, I've been sent a lot of short films from Film Riot viewers and have seen even more through a lot of the contests that we've done, with each of those contests having thousands of submissions to watch. And over that time, I've noticed a lot of common and avoidable mistakes from newer filmmakers. So today, I wanted to dive into those in hopes that if you are newer to this, it may help you avoid those common pitfalls. But it's not just for the newer filmmakers. You see even pro filmmakers doing some of these things every now and again, including myself. So a lot of them are just good things to keep in mind in general. But now hit me with that number one. Our first common mistake is going with your first idea, especially when we're talking about contests. For contests, you want to stand out, be as unique as possible, and the best way to fail at that is going with the first idea that pops into your head, because I guarantee you 100 other people had it too. You would be shocked at how many submissions we get that are almost identical. So don't go with the first thing that jumps into your head. Think differently, and I try to do this even when I'm writing my scripts. When I come to a moment, that first idea that I have is probably something the audience is going to have in mind as well. So sometimes it can help you be surprising within your story by taking a left turn away from those first generic ideas. Our number two is audio pops on cuts. This happens so much. I've even seen it in pro work, and this happens sometimes on a cut from one clip of audio to another, and it sounds something like this.
Hey, bro.
Oh, I had it.
You gonna pop off tonight?
Yeah, I'll say, bro.
See you there.
This can also be exaggerated if you have effects on the actual clips instead of the tracks as a whole. The simplest way to fix this is just add a very short crossfade between the two clips that the annoying popping sound happens in, and it will be gone.
Hey, bro.
Hey, bro.
You wanna get...
But this is a big offender that can reduce the value of your piece, and it's one that is so simple to fix, so keep an ear out for it. Sticking with audio, here's another one that I've seen all the way up to the pro level, and that's audio only coming from one channel. This can happen depending on what you are using to record, DSLRs, for instance, but like the last one, it's an insanely easy fix. For us, in Premiere, we just use a fill effect. If the audio is coming from the left channel, you just fill right with left, and you are good to go. It's one I see a shocking amount of. It's always good to check your sound with headphones before you call it final for reasons like this too. Our number four will be not committing to the moment. This one kills me. A way that you see this most is in action moments, a fight where the characters are clearly not giving their all, weak punches or kicks. It completely destroys any possibility of your audience engaging in that experience that you intended. Of course, you always need safety to be the most important thing, so as long as it's safe, it really is the difference of this and this. But I've even seen this in running shots. A character is supposed to be running full blast, but instead we get this half-ass prance. Or even worse, when your actor doesn't commit completely to the scene. You see often when a person in front of the lens will be acting while delivering their dialogue, but then just stop in between. And granted, we're all using friends and family in the beginning, so I had to deal with this plenty early on, but you just coach them. That's your job as the director. Tell them to stay in it. Give them things to think about or do. The second your actor disconnects from the moment, your audience will too, so keep them in it. Number five is not thinking about transitions. And I don't mean a fade, I mean how are you moving the audience from one space to another, from one scene to another, one emotion to the other. So often you see a cut that is abrupt because the filmmaker didn't give any thought before or during shooting to how they would guide the audience through the story. Or just a fade to black. You see this in major feature films because there wasn't enough attention given to how to properly transition from one scene to another, or one element in the story to the other. So you get this fade to black, which always just feels like cutting to commercial to me. An example from my own work can be seen in There Comes a Knocking. When we move from this scene, we cut out to an establishing shot, it's night now, then to a wine glass that then leads us to our character. And all of this was planned before time to not only move the audience into this new thing, but also continue telling the story in small ways. And just like everything on this list, this is a very simple thing that is an easy fix. As long as you're aware of it, you can solve this problem easy in pre-production by just planning ahead of time. Music is a massive one for me. Years ago, it was totally understandable to have really terrible music. It was next to impossible to get quality music, but nowadays, it is so easy to get your hands on incredible music for free or really cheap. But it's not just the quality that is the issue that I see sometimes. Picking the wrong music for your piece can lead to comical results when that's not what you intended at all. If you take the music to a 10 when the emotion of the scene really needed a 5, you're gonna end up with some laughable results. Do some tests. Pay attention to how films you love handle music and think about the emotion you are trying to convey. A small, tense moment does not need a massive action cue. And speaking of music, MusicBed. They are our partner for this episode, but also one of our main sources of music for the last 7 years or so, as we've talked plenty about on the show. And there's two main factors for me that truly make me love MusicBed. One, the quality of music is top-notch, and they aren't production music or royalty-free, which is great because that means we can get access to high quality music, and what they get are great musicians, bands, and composers who pour their hearts into their work, and that's a big distinction for me. You can find a lot of music that's clearly made just to be sold, and I think it makes a big difference for my project since I think the audience can feel it too. But then through MusicBed, we can easily license all of that for film, TV shows, advertising, whatever you need it for. And two, they really are a company of great people who care about creators, and you can see that in the quality of their work and how hard they push to make all of this music accessible to creators. Then there's the subscription format, which, yes, I know everything is subscription now, but with music licensing, it's a godsend for me. We are constantly needing new music on a weekly basis, and with this, we have unlimited access to their roster of artists for that one monthly or yearly fee. If you want to check it out, and you really should, you can create a free account to listen and download to watermark tracks before committing. No credit card required to do that. And I also have a playlist of some of my favorite tracks, a link for that in the notes, along with a link to get started with MusicBed. And if you want to get great music plus help us out, use the coupon code FilmRiot at checkout to get your first month free when you purchase an annual subscription. Overly expositional dialogue. We all know what I mean. You tell me the story instead of showing me the story. You end up with dialogue that no human would ever say. Both of those characters already know this information, so why would they say it out loud in that way? It's often called the "as you know, Jim" dialogue, since it often starts with "as you know" as a line.
As you know, Justin, we had breakfast at 9:45.
Yes, Josh, that's true. And they were bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches.
Yes, Justin, which is why our stomachs hurt. And they hurt so bad.
That's true. Our stomach hurts so bad we can't run the 5K anymore to save our best friend's life.
Yes, because we were given an ultimatum. Run the 5K or our best friend dies. But now we can't.
No, Josh, we cannot. May he rest in peace.
But again, it's something that you see pros do as well.
This is for the sake of national security.
No, it's the sake of national security that got us here in the first place 33 years ago. I knew someday this would come back to bite us. Forget it. He does not exist.
He does exist. We just chose to forget him for 30 years. We locked him up and threw away the key.
Well, a lot of goddamn good it did us. He broke out of 2 maximum security prisons, and if he hits the streets...
He's not gonna hit the streets, Jim.
Also, don't have your characters say each other's name over and over again. No one does that. Here's another big one for me, showing characters do mundane things for no story-driven reason that takes up a massive chunk of a short film. Through the years, I have seen so many new filmmakers short film that start with a character waking up, turning off their alarm, brushing their teeth, taking a shower, making breakfast, toast popping out of the toaster, and so on. Anyone watching your film would turn it off before that collection of mundane shots is even over. There's nothing compelling about it, and it's been done more times than almost anything on this list. If you have a story-driven reason that someone needs to show a mundane life or a repetitive one, make it compelling. Do something different with it. Show us why we need to see this first, then show us. Films like Nobody and Wanted do a great job of that sort of thing, but remember, you are making a short film, not a feature. An audience member will be more forgiving to a slower pace when they commit to a long runtime. Keep your viewers in mind and skip to what matters. Opening credits, with credits for the actors or written and directed by, displaying over your opening like a Hollywood feature or TV show, always looks bad to me. In major features and TV shows, they put them there because it's contractual to do so more often than not. Sometimes it's a creative choice, like with Snyder films, but when it comes to a short film, there is no reason for it, and it always makes the thing feel small. No one cares to see our names or unknown actors' names to start the film. Use your opening to grab your audience and pull them into the experience, the world, the story. Save the credits for the end. I saved the biggest for last, and that is pacing. This is by far the #1 biggest bit of feedback I give on every new film I see, and honestly, on films from talented friends that I give notes on early cuts as well. And it's a note that I get on every single one of my early cuts also. Nailing pacing is challenging and takes a lot of time, iteration, and feedback to get right. It does get easier over time, but in the beginning, it can be really tough to see. It's definitely a blindside when you're starting out, and it is always a sluggish pace that is the issue. And there's a few things that can cause this, like being in love with a shot. For the benefit of the story, you have to be ruthless with your film. You may love a shot or even a whole scene. It may be one of the most cinematic looking or best scenes in your film, but if it doesn't help tell the story, cut it. And the same goes with the length of those shots as well. Sometimes a shot is great to stay in, but you can tell that the filmmaker just loved that shot because it dwells way too long. Another aspect to this is the pace which you cut your scene. A general rule of thumb is to get into a scene late and out early. Again, going back to the same scene from There Comes a Knocking, I don't show her get the wine bottle or set up in that room. We cut past all of that to only what mattered to me for the story in that scene. And the second we're done with the info needed and the character moment, we cut right out. But then you have dialogue scenes. Very often you will see an exchange go like this.
We were listening at the door.
Okay.
You're doing an old effect
Ew.
We never showed how we did it.
from an old episode.
Ick.
People asked for it.
The people don't know what they want.
We do.
We know what the people need.
No. There's too much time between responses, so the conversation feels unnatural. On top of that, it's line, then cut for a line, then cut for the next line, and so on. When you're cutting your dialogue scenes, think of it like you're sitting in the room. Where do you look and when? You wouldn't anticipate every single response before it happens. Maybe you would with some. So overlap some audio, tighten the pace of responses, and allow the characters' responses to pull the camera's attention to them, more like this.
We were listening at the door.
Okay.
You're doing an old effect
Ew.
We never showed how we did it.
from an old episode.
Ick.
People asked for
The
it.
people don't know what they want.
We do.
We know what the people need.
No. Then overall, it's a good idea to cut your film tighter. Speed the pace until it feels too fast, then start putting some air back into it until it feels good again. It's a good way to practice tightening the flow of your film since, again, in the early days, the biggest problem is how sluggish it can be. So that can help you find sort of a middle ground by seeing those two extremes. And you'll be surprised with a moment that might seem too fast first and ends up being great. But nothing beats feedback. Getting trusted friends to watch it and let you know where it's losing them, where their eyes drifted, and so on. And sometimes just watching the film with someone who hadn't seen it yet will allow you to sense where those moments are without them ever having to say a word. So there you go, 10 of the most common things I see in new filmmakers' works. And these are all things that were pointed out to me as I learned and grew as a filmmaker. So hopefully this will help you recognize these things in your own work and improve too. As always, if you aren't subscribed, consider doing so and hit the bell to be notified when we put up new content. And until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit,